today's class, which is the Winsor & Newton Botanical Watercolor Doodle Wall Art class. My name is Tim DePack, and I'm from Winsor & Newton, and I'll be your class moderator for today's class. I'm being joined by artist Mandy Peltier, who'll be your artist instructor for today's class, and Mandy will be taking you through some of the product information and providing you information about the products being used, and then showing you how to perform some of her favorite watercolor painting techniques and drawing techniques, all while creating this lovely spring-inspired work of art. There was a sketch outline that was available for you before the class for reference. We'll put that link in the chat for you, for those of you who didn't get that yet. And also, upon completion of this class, you'll get a survey in your email. Please let us know what you thought about the class, how we did, and if there's any particular topics you'd like to see Mandy perform in future classes for us. As Felicia said, this class replay will be available 24 hours on Michaels.com and the Michaels YouTube channel. Please feel free to follow along and paint with Mandy, or sit back and relax and enjoy the class. And with that, I'd like to pass it on to Mandy.
Hi, everyone. It's really great to be here. It has been a few months, so I have to admit, I feel a little bit nervous. So hopefully it's like riding a bike and this class will just go seamlessly. So I'll go ahead and switch to my other camera so we can get started. Okay, so I always start with overhead view so you can just make sure you have all your supplies. And I also want to talk about something because an item on here may look a little different from my other classes. So I'm still using the Sketchers Pocket Set, which is the normal watercolor set I use for my classes, with a glass of water, a smaller artist palette, paper towels for blotting my brush. I have a number 4 brush just for mixing my paint colors, and it's an older one where the tip is kind of bent and well used, so it's one I don't have to be gentle with. And then a number 10 round brush will be used to actually paint on the abstract background. And this artwork, what we're going to be working on today, is actually a mixed media piece. The watercolor portion really doesn't take too long. It's really quick, loose, and then we'll dry it with an air gun here, or a heat gun, and just to speed along the process. I prefer for things to naturally dry, but you know, we only have an hour, so we have to speed things along. And then after the abstract background is done, we'll just loosely apply the flowers, which I'll talk more about in just a little bit. But back to the supplies. To draw on the flowers, I am using a Winsor & Newton Fineliner brush. It comes in different sizes. I'm using the 1.0 size, but you can use whatever size you have, or even a different brand if that's what you happen to own. And for paper today, so normally I use the Winsor & Newton cold press 140-pound watercolor paper. I've used their student grade, I've used their professional grade, but today I'm going to use their mixed media paper, and there's a reason for that, and I'll explain why. So this is 135 pounds. This particular paper is 9 by 12 in size. So I've taken a sheet and I've trimmed it to be 8 by 10 for our project today. But the reason I'm using this paper is due to the marker. So cold press watercolor paper has quite a bit of tooth, and tooth of the paper is just sort of the ridges and valleys so that the pigment can kind of seep down into the paper and you can do multiple layers. This mixed media paper, the tooth is very smooth. So I just find that the marker glides over it more smoothly than it does on cold press watercolor paper. So that's the reasoning. And this way you can use or try a different Winsor & Newton paper. It's a pretty new paper compared to their watercolor paper. You can use watercolor paper if that's what you have. So don't feel like if you don't have this paper, you can't do the project. That's not true. This will just be what I'm using today. So with that in mind, let me just talk about the outline that came with the download when you signed up for this class. So most of my classes, we start by transferring the outline onto the working paper, and then we mix our paint color. Well, today we will not be transferring the outline because this is supposed to just be a relaxed, sort of just go for it, just have fun sort of project. And so the outline that was provided is there to serve as inspiration or as reference, but I really would like for all of you to just sort of eyeball it and wing it, because when we do the abstract background, your abstract background will not look exactly like this. So I sort of like to do the abstract background and then place the flowers from there. So I hope that makes sense. Now, of course, many of you are used to transferring the outline before class. So if you've already transferred it, it's okay. Still paint along with me, and then you can just run your marker over the lines you've already drawn. We just won't be transferring the outline in class. All right, so with that, I'm going to clear off my workspace. And so we'll actually start today by mixing our paint colors. We have 6 colors to mix, and it's kind of a curated palette. They are all colors that are toned. And when I say toned, when you tone a color, it means you add gray to it. So it kind of warms it up, darkens it just a little. Toning or toned colors are really popular right now. So I think you'll really like this palette. It's a really pretty palette. Okay, so let me just get organized here, bring everything into better view. And the first color we're going to mix is gray, because we're going to need gray to tone all of our other colors. So we'll just sort of make a well or a bank of gray that we can pull from to tone the other 5 colors that we mix. So the first step to the process is to take your number 4 brush, stick it in the water, swish it around, get those bristles evenly moist. And in case this is your first class, I'll kind of walk you through what I mean when I say certain terms. But I'm going to place 3 scoops of water into 6 wells on my palette, because I had mentioned we're going to mix 6 colors. So let's already create the base for those 6 colors we're going to mix. When I say a scoop, I'm going to use my brush as if it were a spoon, and I'm just sort of going to scoop water out with it. And I'm going to hang it up and down over one well and sort of shake it. So my bristles aren't actually touching the porcelain palette. I haven't hung above it about an inch, and I'm just shaking it up and down to release the water that's on the brush. And that is 1 scoop. So I'm going to do that a second time. And then I'm going to do that a third time in 1 well. And then I'll repeat that process for 5 other wells. The reason I do this in my classes is the goal is that you can better duplicate at home what I'm doing on the camera. And then it's sort of just a formula for mixing colors. So now you may not be using the exact same brush that I am. You may scoop your water differently. So this is not a foolproof scientific thing here. It's just a method I use to try and help you duplicate at home what I'm doing on the camera. And you don't have to go slow here. I move pretty fast. So just kind of throw those 3 scoops of water into those 6 wells, and then we'll be ready to get going. So when we mix our colors, I use the term pass, and I'll explain to you what I mean by that. The very first color we're going to mix is gray. So first we're going to mix black, and then we're going to tint the black to turn it gray. And when I say tint, when you tint a color, you're adding white to it. So we're going to turn the black into gray by adding white. So to mix black, we're going to use Ultramarine Blue and Burnt Umber. They're right on top of each other on your palette. So Ultramarine Blue, Burnt Umber, it's the darker blue in your palette and the darker brown in your palette. And I'm going to start with 2 passes of each. I'll probably need to add more blue than brown, but I'll show you how you can know what you need to do in just a second here. But I'm going to do 2 passes of blue, 2 passes of brown. What I mean by a pass is I'm going to take my wet brush, I'm going to run it into the Ultramarine Blue for a second, stir that into my first well, wipe my brush on each side on the edge of the well, and that's 1 pass. So I need to do that 1 more time with the Ultramarine Blue, and then I'm going to do it 2 times with the Burnt Umber, and I'm going to see where I'm at. The second pass of Ultramarine Blue. And then you'll see once we start adding the brown, the blue will actually start to look like navy. And then after the second pass of brown, it'll probably look like a dark brown, and mine does. I find to mix black, you need a little more Ultramarine Blue than you need brown. So I'm going to now just keep adding passes of blue until I've achieved black. If your paint for some reason looks navy, then you'll want to add more brown. So it's sort of a back and forth game to reach black, and you can do half passes. You don't have to do a full pass if you're close. If you're really close to black, just do like a quarter pass or half pass. And I'm at black now. I'm going to show you on a scrap sheet of paper what it looks like. It's kind of more of a dark gray since we're sort of mixing our own black. So it's not going to be as deep and rich as maybe what you're used to if you were to use black out of a tube. This is a natural, more vibrant black since we mixed it ourselves. So once you've achieved black, what I'm going to do now is tint it with white. I'm probably going to do 4 passes of white. We'll see. I want a middle value gray. I don't want a really dark gray, but I don't want a really light gray. I just want something that's right in the middle, just like a true gray color. So I'm going to start adding white to the gray until I have what looks like a middle value gray. And because I don't want to turn my white black, I'm going to quickly swish my brush and blot it a few times in between each pass. And that will help keep my white clean. You can just clean it later though if you want. These wells are really easy to clean. You just run a clean wet brush over it as many times as it takes. Whoops. As many times as it takes to clean the top surface. All right. So I'm about to start my 4th pass here. I may even go for a 5th pass. It's all a back and forth game. I just know I want kind of a middle value gray, and that's pretty close. I'm going to go ahead and go for a 5th pass, but with the gray, we're just going to use a touch of it in each color to tone it. Just a touch. We don't want to add too much.
Mandy,
So
can you pull the palette up? Perfect. Yep. Thank you.
And I'm going to put it on that scrap sheet of paper too, so you can see what it looks like on the paper compared to the black. So, you know, it's a little bit lighter than the black we mixed because we added the white, but you can go lighter than this too. It's fine. Like I said, we're just going to be using this gray to tone the other colors we're going to mix. So if it's a little bit darker, it's okay. Or if it's a little bit lighter, that's okay. You'll just, if it's lighter, you may need to use more gray. If it's darker, you may need to use just like a teeny tiny bit to properly tone the colors. All right, so we already have water in our 5 other wells. So let's start by mixing a light pink. And these pinks are going to be kind of a mauve color. I don't know if you can see well this pink over the camera. So we're going to mix a darker kind of mauve color and then that same color, but just with more white. So it's a lighter version of it. So actually, let's go ahead and just mix the regular pink and then we'll mix the light pink. So regular pink or the darker pink, we're going to start with 2 parts Alizarin Crimson. It's the only red that's in your palette. So let's start with 2 parts of that into the next well of our palette. And that gives us a nice base of red. And then after 2 parts Alizarin Crimson, I'm going to add 1 or 2 passes of white. I want it to look like more like a pink. So let me, I might just add 1 pass, 1.5 passes. So we just want it to sort of look like a darker pink. So I did 2 parts Alizarin Crimson, 1.5 parts Chinese white. So if your pass is a second long, make it like a half a second to get a half a pass. And then I'm going to now tone it with a little bit of gray and see where it gets me. I'm trying to make this color here a mauve color. So what you don't want to do is stir your whole brush into the gray and then stir that into the pink, because that will create a gray with a pink cast to it. So that's not what we're going for. We just want to tone the pink. So I'm just going to start by putting the tip of my brush into the gray. I mean, I just put a little bit of it on my brush and I'm going to stir that into the pink. Ooh, and it's already beautiful. All right, I think I want to add a touch more gray. This will be another kind of back and forth game here. And so we're toning it to get just a beautiful, pretty mauve pink. And if it's a little too undersaturated, I like to get at least 50%. That looks to me more like 30%. You can make some adjustments by adding a touch more pink, a touch more white, so we can get to that at least 50% opacity. So mixing the palette is probably the hardest part of this project because it's so curated, but do not worry if your shades or hues aren't exactly what mine are. This is still going to turn out really great. And you may not even want to use every color that's on my palette. You may want to kind of make it your own thing. So that's okay. If you don't like pink, you can choose a different color. So, all right, so now we're going to mix a light pink. Same process as the darker pink. We're just going to be adding more white to make it lighter. So we're going to start with 1 part Alizarin Crimson this time. We did 2 for the last color, but this time we're just going to do 1. So 1 part Alizarin Crimson. And then I'm going to do 3 parts Chinese white. Last time we did 1.5. So we're doubling the white and halving the red, essentially. So this will start us off with a much lighter pink than what we had a second ago, or with our other color. And it's pretty as is. I do really like this palette here. And then same thing with the gray, just use the very tip of your brush. Don't stir your whole brush into that gray. We're just gonna tone it gradually. Ooh, that's pretty. I like that. But I do think I want to darken that first color up just a little bit more. So there's a distinct difference between the lighter and the darker. We do want a distinct difference. Working as we go. All right, that's good. Now you can really see the darker pink and the lighter pink by just sort of playing with the ratios. Okay, so now we're going to mix a green. Green will be similar to the same process as what we just did, only we're going to substitute the Alizarin Crimson for Sap Green, which is the lighter of your two greens on your set. It's just like the light pink. We're going to do 1 part Sap Green, 3 parts Chinese white, and then add gray to tone it. So I'll start with the Sap Green. I'll do 1 really good pass of the Sap Green. And then, you can always make adjustments if your opacity is not quite correct. Actually, I'm going to do 2 passes Sap Green because I hardly pulled anything from that first pass. So rinse and blot my brush and then do 3 parts Chinese white. And if I move a little fast for you, it's not because I want to leave anyone in the dust. It's only because we have an hour. So just know that this class is being recorded. It'll be uploaded to the Michael's Store YouTube channel, usually uploaded the next day. So you can always rewatch this class and pause as needed to keep up. All right, so I just did 3 passes Chinese white, and now I'm going to tone it with a little bit of gray. Oh, I love that color. It's so pretty. You might want to add just a touch more Sap Green to it, though. You can always add a touch more gray. It's not toned to your liking. All right, so this green is the green we see towards the bottom that kind of looks like grass. So we've just mixed both of our pinks, the green, and now we're going to mix the, I want to call it ginger root. On the written instructions, I just called it cream, but it's more of a ginger root color. So we're going to mix that color by using the green we just used. We're going to use yellow ochre, and we're going to use gray still and white. So this one uses the most colors, I think. So to mix the cream, let's start with this. Let's do 1 part yellow ochre. That is sort of your mustard yellow on your set. So 1 pass yellow ochre. And yellow ochre pulls really easily. So just keep that in mind. It pulls super easily. And I just love mustard yellow. I love that color. So I like the yellow ochre. All right. And then I'm going to do just a half a pass of Sap Green, especially because it's already wet on top because we just used it. So I'm just going to do a half pass of it because I want this color to be more yellow than green. So after you do 1 half pass or a half pass of Sap Green, then we're going to add to it 2 parts Chinese white. So let me repeat that. 1 pass Sap Green, or sorry, 1 pass yellow ochre, a half a pass of the Sap Green, 2 passes Chinese white. And then I'll use a touch of gray to tone it. Some of your favorite colors may elude you, like how is that mixed? Well, it probably is toned with gray. Start with whatever the base color is and add gray to it. Because it's a really popular color palette right now, toning colors. And then I'm just making little adjustments. Oh, I love that color too. All right. So you'll have enough paint on your palette that you could redo this project after this class is over. The background doesn't really take a lot of paint. So I wouldn't rinse out your palette if you think you might want to practice this technique again after the class is over, which I'd encourage because you're never going to get it perfect the first time, especially in a setting like this where I'm talking your ear off, you're under time constraints. So I always encourage you, if you have time after the class, you have a quiet house, just to take your time and redo whatever project you're doing live with the class or on YouTube or wherever you're watching the class. Okay, so the last color we're going to mix is turquoise. So turquoise is blue-green. We're going to use Cerulean Blue Hue, which is upper right of your palette. It's the lighter of your 2 blues. But we're going to use the darker of your 2 greens, Viridian Hue, which is bottom left. So we're doing top right, bottom left. We're going to do equal parts of those. So I'm going to do one part of both to start, and then we'll add 2 parts of white and a little bit of gray, just like all the other colors. So I'm going to start with 1 part Cerulean Blue Hue. And we haven't used this color yet, so you can make your pass maybe a half a second or second longer, or you can even just go in and do another pass. And then I'm going to do a pass of Viridian Hue. And this is probably the time for you to decide if you like a turquoise that is more on the green side or more on the blue side. What I just did, pushed my turquoise more into the green. Because I want this to sort of mimic sky, I'm going to add a little bit more cerulean blue to push it a little bit more towards the blue side, but it's up to you if you want it to look more green or more blue. So after you get your base color of turquoise done, add a couple of passes of Chinese white to it. One reason I use white is because it does help you get the hue that you need, and it also helps keep your paint consistency the same. Not everyone uses white. Some people like to lighten their colors by adding water, but that will change the opacity. So I do like to use white. And once you add 2 passes of white to it, just add enough gray to it to tone it to your liking. Once again, a beautiful color. All right, and there's our 6 colors. So I'm done with the Sketchers Pocket Set. I'm going to set that aside. And I'm going to sort of rearrange here so we can start doing our abstract background. Bring over my mixed media paper. Try to get it all under the camera here. Like that. And we're going to use the numbered 10 round brush to mix our colors. All right. And because we haven't used the number 10 brush yet, I am going to just stick it in the water and get those bristles evenly moist and wet. It's always a good place to start because we're not doing a dry brush technique. And then after I get those bristles evenly wet, I will just blot it on my paper towel. So I'm not adding too much water to our prepared paint colors. So let me just talk about this technique. The actual painting on of the background, if you were to do this on your own time, you could probably do it in a minute or 2 minutes. It's really fast. It's really quick. So we're just doing basically blobs of paint. When I say blob, I don't mean you want sitting like a puddle of paint on the paper. That's not what I mean, but we're not going to be doing this. If I were to tell you to draw like a loose background for what will be the Fineliner flowers, I don't want you to do this, where you see I'm just really taking my time and trying to paint on a perfect circle. There's really no need to do this. Okay, so we're not going to do that. What we're going to do instead is this. See that? How it's just you see the difference? Like one, I take my time, and one, I'm just sort of throwing the paint on there. And it still kind of looks like a circle, right? We just want them to be kind of loose and fun and quick. So I'm going to start with the quick circles, and then I'll show us how to do the grass and add some details for the blue that kind of mimics the sky, also kind of looks like grass. All right, so that's my brush. I'm going to start with the light pink, and then I'll move to the darker pink. So I'm just using this as an approximate guide. I'm going to try and copy this, but it won't be 100%. But where I see this circle here, I'm going to kind of place here and so forth, but it won't be 100%, which is why I like doing the abstract background first, and then doing the doodles after, and just kind of placing flowers where they fit. So I'm going to put some light pink on my brush, and I'm going to start here and just sort of blot on my first flower. I see a little one just to the right, so I'm going to make a smaller one just there. And then I kind of see one up here. So I'm just moving my brush back and forth to kind of make a blob. Blob's probably not the right word. And I'm going to do another one here. So I'm just sort of following what I see on my finished image. Oh, and I see one, a little one right down here that I almost missed. And again, if it doesn't look exact, that's okay. We just want a lot of movement. We just want some variety. You don't even have to put your blobs where mine are. You can put them wherever you want. And then I'll rinse my brush, blot it. And then I'll be ready for the darker pink. I'm going to put this where I see it. So I see one here. I see one just under this pink. I might even touch them just for funsies. And a bigger one right here. I believe that's all. Oh, and I see one right there. There we go. I believe that's it. Rinse and blot. And now I'll do a few ginger root. So I'll kind of put them where I see them, but you can put them wherever you want. And I kind of see one here. I kind of see one down there. So you can see how they're just sort of all over the place. I'm not trying to follow a pattern. I'm just kind of having fun, because some may not have a flower directly on them. It's just to give the impression of abstract flowers. And by just kind of blobbing them on, you kind of get some nice natural petal forms. Like this actually kind of looks like a petal. So it's not a perfect circle. That's not what we're going for. We want it to be loose and abstract and give the impression of something. All right, so for the grass and sort of sky background, let me pull over my little scrap sheet of paper again. So it's quick, it's fun, it's easy. You'll kind of just put a little bit of green on your brush, and you can kind of start by drawing some stems up to a few of the flowers if you want, like that. And then you can kind of just place your brush almost flat on the paper and just make some broad little grass-like strokes. And then while this is wet, you can place your brush in the water for a second and then just sort of spread it out. Just have fun. Just be loose and fun and just sort of spread it out. And then while all that is still wet, you can just take a little bit of turquoise and throw that on there. So I keep my wrist really loose to sort of mimic the sky and just to have fun with it. So that's my demo one, or my scrap sheet of paper. But this is the process we're doing. I wanted to show you first before we do it together. So I'll start by taking some of the green and maybe to a few of these little flowers we've made, draw a few stems. I'm not going to do it to all of them though. I just want to do it to a few. So I might start and do a little bit here, up to that one, maybe here. So kind of the lower ones. So it kind of blends in with the grass a little better. I haven't done any to up here because I kind of want the marker to be the star. And so after I have a few stems, then I might, and it's okay, some of that pink bled into the green. I want that. That's beautiful. So this is kind of one where you'll want to work a little fast so you can have some colors merging into other colors. So I have the stems on. So now I'm just going to kind of do some of those broad brush strokes. I'm kind of leaving the middle for the turquoise color. And then I'll kind of wet my brush and then just sort of spread it out further. So this will dilute the green a little bit, which is why it is kind of nice to have a nice saturated mix of color so it doesn't make it too light of a green. But don't worry if it does, that's okay. This is just such a pretty spring piece, I think, the colors and everything. Then after you have some green on, I'll take some turquoise and I'll put some right through the middle. And I'm okay with it bleeding into the green because part of how you make turquoise is by using green. So that's a good thing. We want it to sort of merge with the green a little bit. And I like to put a little bit kind of up here because I think it kind of mimics the sky or gives the impression of the sky. And then if you need to, you can rinse your brush and then sort of pull that along the edges to help it kind of blend and transition into other things. And I even have a little bit of pink here, so maybe I'll just put a little bit of pink in there for fun. Just have fun with it. Just be abstract, be loose. Don't think too hard. I tell I teach middle school art, and I tell my middle schoolers, don't think too hard. They just really want to take their time and not move in they overthink things, I think is the way to put it. And I used to do that too when I first got started. Don't overthink it, just have fun. And then if you have any green left, I think I'll add another sort of stem right up there. And then I think that's good. I'm happy with that. I like how that looks. I'm not going to overwork it and I'm not going to overthink it. So what I'm going to do now with this background is I'm going to take my heat gun. Normally I'd let this air dry for a few minutes, but because we only have an hour, we don't have time for that. So I'm going to turn this on. It'll probably take me 30 seconds, 45 seconds to make sure this whole thing is dry. You do want to make sure it's dry before you go on top with your marker, because you might damage your marker if the paper's still wet or it won't glide on smoothly. So I'm going to 3, 2, 1, turn on my heat gun.
And for those of you at home, if you don't have one of these heat guns, you can use a hair dryer in the same format to help dry the paper quicker.
Okay, I think that is probably good enough. I'm actually gonna try and demo for you what each individual flower looks like so we can move a little bit faster when we actually draw them onto the painting. So I'm gonna set this aside for a second, and if there's anything that's not fully dry, it can dry now. So I'm gonna move my watercolor aside too, because the rest of this class is mixed media, and we'll be using that Fineliner marker, which is fun. So let me get my scrap sheet of paper here. Okay, so, and I'll also get out my outline. I think it might be easier for you to see the individual flowers if I use the outline for a second, and then I'll go back to where you can see it on here. So let me just talk about the individual flowers. I'll start with this one. So this flower, you're going to start with sort of a spiral in the middle. So I'll try to make these a little bit bigger on here. So I'm going to start in the very center of the flower and just sort of spiral around like that. And then there's only one petal that you can fully see. The rest of the petals are sort of tucked behind the other petals. So I'll start with the one that's a full front facing petal, and it's sort of as a heart shape. Do you see how the top is sort of a heart shaped curve? So that's how I'm going to draw it on. I'm going to go up and do sort of a heart shaped curve and then back down. So that's the only front facing flower. And then the next petal, I'm going to start at the top of the previous petal and start with the heart-shaped curve and then bring it down. And I'm going to do that process for all the others. Start with the heart-shaped curve, bring it down, and you'll just fit on as many petals as you can. I generally get 5, but it looks like this one I might even get a little 6th in there. So you're going to start with that process, and then I like to do a curved line all running in the same direction on each petal. And then each half of each petal gets 3 dots for a total of 6 dots on each petal. And I just press my marker onto the paper, dot, 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 dot. It's quick, it's loose, it's fun, just like that. And the leaves for this particular flower, if I were to draw just a partial stem, is just a curved teardrop with one of those slightly curved lines running through the middle. So that's that one.
Quick question for you, Mandy, on this project. Could someone do the, what was the question on here? Can they do the drawing first and then apply the watercolor on top of the drawing?
Yeah, you absolutely can.
Okay.
And that is one doodling technique, is you do the marker first and then you paint the doodles. But because this particular project is more abstract, loose, I like to do the background first. So I don't feel like I'm hindered or being controlled by the outline. I can just throw the paint on there, have fun, and then sort of arrange the flowers based on how the background looks. That's why I chose to do the background first, is just so the whole thing could just be loose and sort of spontaneous. But yeah, you can do the outline first if you want. All right, the next one here, this is just lavender. So you just start with a stem and you do one curved teardrop at the top, and then you're basically just drawing a heart. And the center of the heart is the stem. So you're just doing one half on one side, one half on the other side. So you're just drawing a heart on each side of the stem. And then lavender leaves are just sort of skinny, kind of pointed leaves. So that's lavender. And then there's this one. This one starts with a center teardrop, and then two side petals that are not full. It's sort of like this one where you start towards the top of the center teardrop and sort of make sort of a half teardrop petal shape and connect it in. So it's very symmetric. And then this one has a cool design at the top. You start at the top left petal and you sort of follow the curve of that flower and draw sort of a top portion like that. And you can make the flowers however you want. And then I do like on this one to draw little petal veining on the base of the petals. I do only 2 veins on the left and right petal and 3 to the center one. And then my favorite one is the false Queen Anne's lace. I love these ones. I think they add a lot of texture to the doodles. So I start by kind of drawing a V shape that's sort of wide and slightly curved like that. Almost that looks like a U. Sometimes I point it. That's more of a U shape. And then I like to draw little stems that are kind of curved onto that V shape. And these stems can run at different directions. They can stop and start at different heights. And then I kind of fan out at the top where the flowers will be 4 to 5, sort of fan out there. And then I just draw little dots at the tips of those 5 little fan shapes at the top of each stem. Now, leaves for false Queen Anne's lace looks a little bit like dill, if you have a dill plant or ever buy the herb. So we'll have a little stem, and then the leaves, you just sort of draw straight lines that feed off each other. Really easy to draw there. Okay, and then what else? We have this bell-shaped flower here. So you'll kind of draw a bell shape like that. It almost kind of looks like a U shape as well. And then you'll kind of meet the top into a V shape. And then I like to draw little stems with open circles now, not closed circles. You could consider this maybe like a tulip. And then this stem, the leaves on it, they're wider, rounded teardrops. They're bigger than that first one we did. And instead of just drawing a half curved line, I like to draw curved lines that follow the curve of both the left and right side of that leaf. So the left side middle curve follows the direction of the left curve of the overall leaf, and same on the right side. And then 2 more, I believe. We have Black-Eyed Susans right here. So I'm just going to draw sort of a gumdrop shape for the center of the Black-Eyed Susan, and I like to loosely just color it in with my marker. And I like to start with the stem on this one. It may help as you're getting started, just start with the stem. So it kind of looks like a mushroom right now. And I'm going to draw one larger petal on the left side of that stem and one that's the same side on the right side of the stem. And then I'm going to draw 2 more petals on each side, and each one's going to get a little bit smaller and a little bit smaller than that first one I drew on. So this one will be a little bit smaller, and then this one will be the smallest. And I'm going to do the same side, same thing on the other side. So that's Black-Eyed Susan. And the leaves for the Black-Eyed Susan are pointed with a line running through the middle. So the tip of the leaf is pointed, not rounded like the first 2. And then the last one I'm going to show you is this one. This kind of looks like a cornflower. So I'm going to draw the base of the cornflower. Also kind of looks like a gumdrop, just a little bit longer than the Black-Eyed Susan. And I like to do cross hatching through it. So that means lines going in one diagonal direction and then other lines going in the other diagonal direction. So that's cross hatching. And I'll draw one central petal. And then as with the other ones, I'll draw 2 more on each side. That's going to sort of feed off that first one. So the only full facing petal we see is that front and center one. All right, and for the cornflower, the leaves on this one are just kind of fun. I just draw little lines with an open circle at the top. And you can have some that kind of feed off each other. So just curved lines with an open circle. Just have fun with it. And I did forget about this one, but that one's pretty easy. You're just doing a loose circle in the center, and then same thing, petals, one central one, and then others that feed off that main one. So it's fun, right? Relaxing. So let's go ahead and apply this process to the actual design. All right. So I'm going to try and copy this as best I can, but all of my little blobs and dots aren't exactly in the same spot as they are on this. So there might be some variance, but I'm going to start with that first flower I demoed. This one up here that kind of starts with a spiral as the center. And then that first full facing leaf. And then I kind of turn my work as I add each additional, I called it a leaf, each additional petal. I'm just going to sort of fit on as much as I can, probably get 5 on here. And then I'll draw those little curved lines that run through the middle of each petal. And then 3 dots on each side of the petal for a total of 6 dots on each petal. And I'm going to wait on drawing the stem. I'm just going to draw the flower heads for now. And then I'll just go ahead and work from kind of left to right so I don't accidentally smear my marker. This marker does dry very fast, but I'm right-handed, but I hold my pencil like this as if I'm left-handed. There's a whole story to it. So I'm just going to try not to smear the marker. So I'll work from left to right. So I'm going to draw what looks like kind of sort of like tulips. So it's that bell-shaped flower that sort of meets like a V in the middle, or that kind of looks like a bird when you're a child and you draw birds in the sky. That's sort of what the top of this tulip looks like, I think. And then the little anthers and pollen. I'll draw another one over here that's a little bit smaller. And then I'll do the black-eyed Susan. So that's the one that has a gumdrop as the top. And I just kind of loosely scrabble in the middle so that you can see a little bit of that pink beneath it. And this is the one where you could go ahead and draw on the stem on this one. And I'm going to draw 2 bigger stems on both the left and right, or 2 bigger petals. I have to get my words right. 2 bigger petals on the left and right of the stem. And then each subsequent petal will be a little bit smaller and a little bit smaller. And then this one has another black-eyed Susan sort of feeding off of itself right here. So I'm going to do that one next. Just have fun. There's a lot of different techniques for doodling, but I think they're all quite relaxing and fun. All right, so I'm going to move to this one, the one that sort of has that interesting detail along the top. So I'm going to start with that center sort of teardrop shape for the petal, and then 2 on each side of it that kind of feed off and kind of look like half of a heart. And then that top detail that sort of runs along the top of the flower. And then the veining on the petals. And then I'm going to do one to the ginger root color up here. That color I just love so much. Probably because it uses yellow ochre, which I love so much. And I'm going to save the lavender for the end to kind of fill in space as needed. I'm going to go ahead and move over to the black-eyed Susan over here. This is a bigger one, so I'm going to try and draw a bigger gumdrop shape. and at least part of that stem so it can guide me for those two bigger petals on the left and right side. Like that. And then I'm going to draw this one on the paper. I think it's nice to have a couple that don't have any paint behind it. It adds some interest and it draws your eye right to it. So I'm going to draw that same flower that sort of starts with that bullseye or spiral shape in the center. And then that first heart-shaped petal. And then the rest that sort of feed into it. And the more you do these doodles, the easier the flowers get, I promise. It goes a little faster. I know you guys may be working a little bit slower than I am today, and that's totally okay. You can just use the outline as a guide or even put in some of your favorite doodle flowers if you want. And now I'll do this one here. This is the one that has that bigger gumdrop shape and the cross hatching through it, just to add a little more texture to the piece. And then petals that feed off the side. I sense a pattern here. All right, and then one right down here that's a little bit smaller. I would say that's the goal with doodles, is get different textures in there, get different sizes. Try not to have all your flowers be the same shape or size, because that will add some interest to the overall piece. And then I'll do the little one down here, where you're just loosely filling in the circle, and then it's just 5 petals, with the center one being the biggest, and then the ones on the side getting smaller and smaller, like so.
Hey, Mandy, this is Felicia. Just know that you are more than welcome to go over it a little bit if you need to.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's 2:50 already. No, I think we'll be good. All right. So, but goodness gracious, where did the time go? Okay, so I'm going to move on to the Black-Eyed Susans real quick and draw that sort of V/U shape, and then the little lines. Here, I thought this class was going to be quick. I think I'm used to teaching my middle schoolers now. I go a little bit slower with them because we're not under time constraints like the Michael's classes. We can take multiple days if we need to on a project. And then I'm dotting the top of each of these. And I'm not doing the stems yet. All right, and then I'm going to do another false Queen Anne's lace over here, going in the opposite direction to add some movement. I'm going to do another sort of one of those V shapes. And then do the little fan shape at the top of each one. And then dots for, I guess you could call them the petals for the false Queen Anne's lace. They're such a fun filler flower. One hobby I have is growing flowers and selling them at the farmer's market. And my garden looks amazing right now, although the Japanese beetles are going to be arriving soon, which will be nothing short of frustrating for me. So, but right now it looks amazing. And certain flowers are starting to bloom, and it's just so pretty out there and peaceful. All right, so I think I'm going to go ahead and start working on the stems so we can move this along here. So I'm going to I'm not going to think too much about it. I'm just going to sort of pull stems down where I can. Some I may overlap flowers, others I may kind of tuck behind. It just kind of depends on how my marker moves. And just putting these stems in are really going to add a lot of texture to the piece, even without all the leaves and such. And I try to overlap the stems to add movement. So you can see I'm really kind of deviating from this one now because the placement of stems is just going to change with every single piece. And then I'll go ahead and put on those leaves we talked about. The kind of the tulip shapes get big old rounded teardrops with 2 center curves that follow the direction of the part it's closest to of the leaf. And so just kind of fit a few of those in. It's okay if you're overlapping with other things. And then the Black-Eyed Susans get a traditional sort of pointy tip leaf. And you can do some of the dill type leaves for the false Queen Anne's lace to add a little bit of texture. And these that I would consider maybe cornflower are the ones that have just kind of a curved line with an open circle, and you can sort of feed off of them and add a couple circles to one leaf, if you will. Just have fun with it. You can see how I just sort of doodle. I don't really think too much about it, just sort of have fun with it. So if you had a rough day, this could be just what you need to unwind. And if you put the wrong leaf with the wrong thing, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. No one's going to know. Oh, and I need to put a stem on that one. All right. Couple more additions here. I like to add this little thing in the lower right and this thing in the lower left. So for this thing on the lower right, I just add 3 curved lines, each one getting a little shorter as you reach the bottom of the page. And I just draw like loose ovals or circles on it. I don't know, it just adds some movement. I like it. And then on this side, I just draw one little stem of leaves. And the very top, they're small. And then as you leave a little bit of space on the stem, and then the leaves get a little bit bigger, leave a little space, make the leaves even bigger, leave space, and then make the very bottom leaves the biggest. I just think that looks nice. And if you want, you can do this thing here. That is just the same as the lavender, where you just draw little heart shapes. I'll put one lavender in here. Why not? Just so you can see it again. So I'll start with a very top leaf or petal, and then just do heart-shaped petals for a couple inches or so. Look like lavender, and then you can always put in a few little skinny leaves, so it's obvious that it's lavender. And I think that is probably good for today, given the time. I could squeeze more things in here, but the trick is to not overwork, not to add in so much that it looks really busy. You want it to look like maybe a wildflower garden or just a cottage garden, but there can be times where you try to make everything the same height. It's good to have something a little higher than something else, to have movement in terms of height and the way it flows. So if I were to add anything else, I might add a lavender over here like this to kind of balance out the lavender going this way, to put one going this way. So just making sure there's a lot of movement is key, but I think you get the idea. So I would love to see your doodles if you were able to keep up with me today. So if you want to hold it up so I can see, that would be awesome. And I'll switch my camera view to gallery so I can see them, a little bit bigger. Oh, those look great. Yes, gorgeous. Very pretty abstract backgrounds too. Very good on that. Because it is tricky to move fast, right? And not overthink it and not really kind of take your time. So really good. The key to a lot of abstract art is just going with it and having fun. You all did an awesome job. I'm really proud of you.
Before we sign off on a couple things here, if anybody wanted to save the chat transcript in the chat box, click on the 3 little dots in the bottom corner and hit save chat. So if there's any links that I might have sent to anybody, that they will be in there. You can see some of the comments that are in there. I just want to comment, Mandy, great class. I think there were so many takeaways from this for everybody that watched this class. There was the drawing aspect, the mixing aspect, can go a long way for people's artwork to expand what they're doing on there. So great class. I think everybody enjoyed it so much. And I want to say it was very nice seeing everyone. I'm sure for Mandy and Felicia as well. We missed all you, and we're happy that we're back here and able to give you a class again.
Thank you. It's great seeing you all, and I'm just kind of skimming the chat, and y'all are so sweet and encouraging. Thank you. It's great to be here today and be back. So it's good seeing you all.
Lots of thank yous from everyone. Great. Hey, also just to let everyone know, if there's any classes that you wanted to see from Mandy that she previously done, or just Winsor Newton classes in general, in the Michael's YouTube channel, you can go on there and search under Winsor and Newton, and you'll see a bunch of classes that were performed in the past that you can go back and rewatch again. And I
Yeah,
think that's
and
it.
you can always go on my website too, mandypeltier.com. You can see all my previous Michael's classes. I think this is 50 something or close. I've
Yeah.
taught quite a few over the past couple of years.
And when you go to the YouTube channel, in the bottom section, like where the comments are, you'll see the links. So that'll have your instruction materials, supplies, and the any of the sketch outlines that you need to perform any of the previous classes are there as well. With that, I'd like to say thank you, everyone. It was great seeing you and hope you have a great day. And Mandy, thank you once again. Great class.